Rule 7.
Rule 7.
Here we are to talk about Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. And today is Rule 7, which is pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. Pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. A couple definitions just to start us off. Expedient, I had to look into what that means. It's convenient, practical, although possibly improper or immoral. Um, that's what expedient is. And then meaningful, just as a starting definition, something that's meaningful is having a serious, important, or useful quality or purpose. So that's rule 7. What do you got to say about it?
It's, I mean, the man, it's something else. I have a great deal of respect for him. He does a tremendous amount of research.
Oh yeah.
And, so far, the last couple of rules, they start really rough, you know? He starts off by saying life is suffering, and that's a fact. We know that to be the case. And if you get anything other than suffering, well, enjoy it while you can, because life is made of obstacles and challenges and suffering. And thank God that at the end of every chapter he provides a light. Okay, but he's definitely um, runs you through the mud in the beginning.
Yeah.
um I don't know about you, I'm finding the book to be quite challenging. And that, it's when I'm reading some of this stuff that he talks about, like the darkness of the human being and the soul and this, um, I need to take a break.
Oh yeah.
I need to get away from it because what he's saying is that, you know, look, pursue what is meaningful, but not what is expedient. And in the process of explaining that, I mean, he hits you in the face with a 2x4. The part of what's not expedient. He says, look, if you want to do something quickly, the rewards are short felt. The rewards are just not there for you. They're going to be very fleeting. So you should find something that is meaningful in your life. And no matter what the sacrifice is, go for it. It's going to build your character, it's going to portray who you are, and in the process you're going to come out a better person, man or woman, and you're going to benefit the lives of those around you, and God knows what the ripple effect might be. It could be huge.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I he goes in the chapter very deep into different biblical stories and everything, but at the end of the day, the message is pretty clear. You have to sacrifice the present for a better future.
Correct.
That's what he means by pursue what is meaningful. uh it's going to be hard, it's going to be sacrifice, and in the times of the biblical times and before, you were sacrificing a lamb, you were sacrificing, right, an animal, uh different situations. Now you're sacrificing your time, the time with, let's say, your loved ones, uh burning the midnight oil, doing things like that to provide a better future for, let's say, you and your family.
Absolutely.
That's kind of what the message that I get. And I wanted to maybe open up with, I try to bring things back to real life here because a lot of the rules and Jordan Peterson goes way out there in some of the thought, right? Like when he's talking about the future, he's talking about being good to your future self. He's saying like it's just interesting the concepts that he comes
Well,
up with.
it's tremendously introspective.
Yes. When
So,
you're doing something for the future, you're being good to your future self
right,
if you're doing something good.
if you're doing something good. But
Um,
but he wants us to be conscious of the fact that we could be extremely evil.
We have the capacity.
We have the capacity. And that's
Yes.
the part that it just, I
It
gotta get my head around that because I just don't see myself that way. But he says, hey, what is he calling sugar pie or sweetheart? You're not that good. You can be capable of the most heinous of crimes, and
if you were around in the time of the Nazis, if you
you
were
would be
around in
one
the
of them.
time of yeah,
You would be one of them.
you right. He's saying you're not that special to
Yeah,
think that you would
right.
not fall
Get
into
off
that
your
trap.
high horse, that white high horse that you're on.
Yeah.
It's, I'm telling you that, and I think it's an excellent book. I recommend it to everyone to read it. And I also recommend take little breaks here and there, especially if it's hitting you hard, like it's hitting me. And I'm sure that it will because this thing is a bestseller, and he's got sellouts on every speech that he has.
Yeah.
He's filled up every auditorium. I think he had a tour, and I'm not quite sure, but I think he visited over 50 countries, and there wasn't not one empty seat.
Yeah, I've seen him live in Los Angeles
That's
and
right, you did.
he filled the place. Um it's sacrifice the present for the future.
Correct.
The future is the judgmental father. These are quotes from the book.
Yes.
He talked about a life of suffering, but I wanted to he's talking about sacrificing today's pleasure for a better future. And so, how does this apply in real life? Because that's what I'm very interested myself. Like, where do we see this in real life and how do we apply it? Um,
Well,
so
go ahead.
growing up, I look at my personal experiences because that's where I can pull from. Um, I saw this sacrifice that you and mom would make in terms of trying to provide a better future. And the way that I saw it was in the work ethic and the time that was spent in the office. You ran your business, um, you and mom, and it was a family business. It was a small business. And I remember Friday nights, weekends going to the office. We didn't want to go. I mean, we're kids, little. And there was a little room that was not being used. It was more for storage, and it had a black and white TV. So me and my siblings would go in that room,
Watch
watch TV.
cartoons.
Yeah. But you guys would have us doing some things in the office too. But it was a combination, right? But I reflect now, at the time I didn't really understand, hey, it's Friday night and you would order pizza, you and mom, and we'd eat pizza at the office on a Friday night. You guys were working, we were watching TV, but we were all in the office together.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I see him talking about. Pursue what is meaningful. It's going to be hard because I'm sure you wanted to do other things on a Friday night.
Sure.
I'm sure you guys could have gone out to dinner. We could have done this, that, but
Go to Disneyland, whatever. Go to the
instead
beach.
we're stuck in an office. We're in an office,
Right.
um, and you guys are doing work,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the insurance office that you guys started in the 80s,
Right.
in 86. And so we grew up seeing that, and that gave us an example. And you've been able to provide a better future for yourselves and your family and the next generations because of the sacrifices that you made 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
Right.
And so that, I think, is what Jordan Peterson is kind of getting to, because a lot of what's out there in the world is about doing what you love, and social media, it only showcases certain things. Oh, they're traveling, they're this all the time, blah blah blah. But it's not actually saying, like, it's a life of suffering. Some
Yeah.
people get dealt a really bad set of cards, and you just have to pursue something meaningful. It will be difficult, but it will bring you a better tomorrow.
I
So
agree.
I wanted to just open with that because I think that that is kind of in essence what this rule is about, at least to me.
He does, and he gives the example of he calls it the hardcore college party animal that also wants to become a medical doctor. And he says, well, you can't be partying all the time and expect to become a doctor. So you are going to have to sacrifice
Yeah.
your party time and get some studying done so you can pass these tests and actually understand what you're doing and become a medical doctor. You're going to have to give up a lot.
Yeah.
And he gives the example that, hey, you have to sacrifice this, you got to study in order to become this, because you will be able to put food on the table for your family as a medical doctor or as an engineer or something. But he's talking about sacrificing today for a more meaningful tomorrow. And he
Right.
actually goes out and says, the successful of those of us today, the successful of today among us have had to sacrifice something in the present to have a better future.
Yeah.
And he says there's no other way around that. Immediate gratification is far and few in between. You could get lucky and hit the lotto.
And that's what he's calling expedient,
Right.
immediate gratification.
Correct.
Just
It's
doing what you like or what's pleasurable and not necessarily what takes discipline and is difficult.
right. So he's telling you sacrifice something now to gain something of value later. And then he goes on to say, but let me ask you this, what exactly are you going to sacrifice? Okay? You need to identify what are you going to sacrifice? Okay?
Your
And then
time,
your time, your energy,
your
oh,
youth,
your youth, okay?
partying.
Your eyes. I met a couple guys, they were medical doctors and they had studied in a foreign country, and they would read their medical books by candlelight because the electricity would go off in their towns
Wow.
and they would not have electricity to read a book. So they would turn on their candles and they would read the medical books by candlelight. And sure enough, they had glasses, because they were reading so much. And by candlelight, it's not easy. It's hot, depending on how close you are to the candle.
Yeah.
There are a lot of sacrifices that people have made in order to obtain a better future.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting because I come from an immigrant family.
Hmm.
We escaped communism and we came to this country, to the United States. They opened their arms to us, thank God for that, and the US. And I remember my parents always, always, always thinking about the future. And they were all over me to study, to this, not a moment of very little time to have fun, let's say. Okay? And back then, you listen to your parents or you get your butt kicked. And so, um, I also think that because I had that, that sometimes you maybe think way too much about the future. I know I think my parents thought way too much about the future, and then you forget to live the present a little bit.
Mm.
There's gotta be a balance. Do you understand? No regrets on my childhood or anything like that. But there was always that constant pressure
Yeah.
of the future, the future, the future, the future.
It's just that I put myself, let's say, in their shoes,
Hmm.
having to flee a country, leave everything you own, build contacts, friends, everything. And the only reason they were able to do that was because they predicted, uh, based on the information that they had. It's not like they were connected to the government or anything,
No.
but they saw what was coming, and they, in the future, and were able to say, hey, I'm going to get out of this situation. I never got to ask grandpa or grandma, your parents, um, questions about, like, if they ever thought, like, what if they would have stayed in Cuba, or, questions like that. Like, they decided to leave and that's it.
Well,
And that was because they were thinking of the future. That's why I can see how they're stuck in thinking of the future.
oh yeah, there were, and then we came here and we lived with my uncle and my aunt together, and all four of them. I mean,
Yeah.
it was the future.
I'm sure it left a trauma for
For
sure.
sure.
You know?
It absolutely left a trauma. But if you would have been able to ask your grandma, there was no, once she made up her mind,
Yeah.
she was leaving no matter what. And, we've gone through the story where my father said, if I get the visa first, I'm not leaving you and the baby. And my mom said, if you're not leaving, when I get mine, I'm telling you, I'm leaving. And then that means we'll never see each other again because the government was giving you a one-time opportunity, but on purpose they were dividing the families. So
Right.
if you didn't leave Cuba when you got your visa, you relinquished it forever. So that was a threat, and my dad told my mom, I'm not gonna leave.
Yeah.
And she says, okay, you do what you want, but I'm telling you, I'm leaving. So, it's a psychological, and
Well,
he's talking about,
I mean, we're, as the grandchildren, just to finish that thought, like, I'm reaping the benefits of their
oh,
sacrifice,
of their sacrifice.
of their sacrifice.
Yeah.
And you coming to this, you didn't make the choice to leave.
No.
Your parents did, but you went through obviously a sacrifice as well, unwillingly, possibly because you were a lot younger.
Mm-hmm.
But your parents said, "Hey, this is what it is." So, anyways, the I agree with what Jordan Peterson is saying here, that the sacrificing today for a better future. And if you look at any, well, some stories don't come out good. So, for example, Peterson brings up Cain and Abel,
Yes.
that they were both sacrificing to God. They were making sacrifices to God, but uh, Abel was getting rewarded and Cain was not.
Correct.
So what Peterson said is, the potentially, I'm paraphrasing, one of the worst feelings ever is, you're sacrificing, let's say today, thinking that you're going to have a better tomorrow, but you're not getting a better tomorrow. So you're actually losing. It's a lose-lose.
Right.
You're not living the life that you want to live because you're sacrificing, yet you're not getting the benefits of the sacrifice. And that's why Cain turned, you could say, evil. He turned,
And killed Abel.
yeah. He did it to go against God.
He also says that in the scriptures there's a type of tonality that indicates that uh, Cain's sacrifice, he was not totally in
It
it.
wasn't a true
It
sacrifice.
wasn't a complete devoted,
He was living a lie, is what I think he says.
right. And so, and by doing that, he wasn't finding favor with God,
Right.
but yet he was able to kill his brother.
He did.
And he goes on to say, you know, I mean, he's telling us, you better be careful. You better be aware of the fact that you can commit very, very ugly, heinous crimes.
Yeah.
Because he says if Cain would have been given the power, okay, not only would he have killed Cain, but first he would have
Abel.
tortured him.
Abel, yeah.
Excuse me. Not only would he have killed Abel, he would have tortured him tremendously first, and then he would have killed him.
Right.
And then God knows who else he would kill. So
Yeah.
it's this is it's a very interesting read. He's talking about, he gives the example of that monkey that um, the hunters, they put this metal jar with a very narrow neck, and they put treats inside.
Mm.
So the monkey can put his hand into it, but when he grabs the treats, he creates a fist, and he's not able to take the fist out, right? So he's stuck with the jar. All the monkey has to do is open his arm, his hand, let go of the treats, okay? And he can take his hand out. But he doesn't do it. And so all the monkey hunter has to do is approach the monkey and pick him up and take him with him. So he's saying, you're just like a monkey. We all are. You're not willing to sacrifice the treats of today, what makes you feel better today,
Yeah.
for the safety of the whole. The monkey's going to get eaten up. He's going to get cooked and eaten up by the villagers. Okay? He's got his hand in the jar. He makes a fist by grabbing the treats, can't get out, but he's not willing to let it go. And he says, you're just like the monkeys and you're just as blind as they are. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're,
He brings you down to the dirt.
oh my God, does he ever?
um, he
And that's a
also,
very interesting example.
yeah, it is. He also brings up that we're the only animal, we're the only ones, the only animal that has been able to figure this out about the future, like sharing. And he brought up the mammoths, remember? You kill a mammoth and then you have some leftover food. You
You'll have
real
a ton.
Yeah, you have a ton of leftover food and then you realize sharing some of that food is good in the future for the future you, because the day that you are the guy
Who
who
doesn't have
who
food?
doesn't have food and they'll share with you, that forms the community.
And he says that creates a form of debt that the other party has to repay, or is feeling the urge to repay it because you gave him that
Right,
first.
right.
And he says, for example, a wolf doesn't have that. He'll kill something and he'll eat 20 pounds of meat in one sitting, because he's not there thinking, oh, maybe if I saved a little bit for tomorrow, I won't go hungry tomorrow.
Right.
But he takes his fill today. Um,
Yeah.
and this thing takes me forever, Mike,
Well, yeah.
to go through, because, for example,
Same.
I've read a lot about Socrates, but I didn't know how Socrates had died.
Me neither.
So he talks about Socrates, and he gives us the example of the rule in what happened to him, that he was um,
He was
court
in
martialed.
trial. Yeah,
Yeah,
he was in trial.
he was in trial. But then before going forward, I said, well, wait a minute. I've read so much about Socrates, but I really don't know how he died. So I had to go so I stopped it, and then I
Oh yeah,
researched
it takes you
how he
into.
died in order to be able to understand this better.
And what was
It's crazy.
interesting, is that he didn't even try to defend himself in the trial.
Correct.
He just knew what he lived by and what was right. And even though they were accusing him, I think, of certain things that were kind of a little out there just
Yeah,
to get rid of him, I guess.
they wanted
Um,
to get rid of him because he was affecting the minds of the younger people.
right.
And they felt he was like a poison to what the people that were in charge wanted to do.
And so
Sounds familiar.
yeah, so they poisoned him.
Huh? Yeah,
That was his death.
they,
They executed him by, I
right.
guess, poison.
Yes. I forget the name of it's a herb, that it's a poison herb, and you drink it.
Yeah,
And
that was interesting how
that's how they killed him.
but in that reflection, what Peterson brought up is that Socrates said, "They're doing me a favor.
I know.
I don't have to reach those old ages where I won't be able to walk physically or have my mind, or I won't have to live through life like that. They're doing me a favor
Yeah, so he
by."
turned his execution into an example for his students. And he won, because Peterson says 2,500 years later, we're still talking about him,
Hmm.
you know? But he says, don't kid yourself. The ability of human evil, the capability of human evil adds a new level of pain to the world. He says, be aware that we can inflict a tremendous amount of pain on our fellow man. And, I mean, it's extremely interesting.
Yeah.
He takes it a step further and he says, look, soldiers in the war, okay, they develop post-traumatic stress disorder not because of something that they saw, but because of something that they did. Now, I have no expertise on anything like this. He is a clinical psychologist, and he says that he's seen this in his practice very much. I never knew
It's
that.
something that they did.
Right. Something that they did, not that they saw.
Mm.
That's what develops, the post traumatic stress. And so they killed somebody, they attacked a village, they
Yeah.
hurt children. He says this is what develops this disorder. Post traumatic stress disorder is because they did something, not because they saw it, they did it. And then they have a conflict in trying to later on try to reconcile that reality that was at the time of the war
Hmm.
with the reality in which they live today. And he says that's what makes a young farm boy from Iowa turn into a monster.
Right.
And, he gives all kinds of additional rationales and
Yeah.
so forth. And it's very interesting and
It's rough.
it's rough.
Um,
It's rough. I
yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
but he has a great deal of experience with it. He's seen a lot through his clinical.
That's what I was gonna say, that is writing this book based on his experiences, also the research that he's done, extremely well read on different philosophers, and but also his experience, I would say, is his experience is gonna be different than, let's say, the average person,
For sure.
because of the people that you're have as patients or clients.
For sure.
They are probably coming with all kinds of issues, and you're dealing with like the most troubled situations.
Correct. We have a friend that his wife is a social worker, and they get to see very, very ugly things of
Yeah.
this side of humanity
Yeah.
that
Most people don't.
most people don't get to see. And I know several social workers, and they all end up in
It's a difficult job.
it's an extremely difficult job, and a lot of them need treatment.
Yeah.
They need treatment after they spend a few years there. It affects them to such a degree because they've seen so much evil and so much ugliness
Yeah.
that we don't get to see. And that's what Peterson is talking about. Humans inflicting pain on humans.
Yeah.
And he says it, there's a level of it adds a level of pain to the world that we've never seen before. And social workers, even I was talking to our friend, a fireman,
Mm-hmm.
they see also so many things that it also affects them. So, he's saying here that this post traumatic is by something that they did. Well, when you did it, you're having nightmares and all this stuff. But then when you see this too, it also has a level of effect on you.
Right.
I don't know if it develops this thing. He was very distinctful in saying that it's what you did that causes it, not what you see.
Yeah.
But these social workers, these firemen, these police officers that are out there trying to do the best job they can, uh,
Yeah.
they see so much that sometimes maybe reality is not that easy to touch.
Mm.
That's why it's not easy to judge, or
Right.
it's easy to judge, but we shouldn't.
What do you think about when Peterson talks about meaning? It does not mean happiness. Like, meaning in life doesn't mean doing something that makes you happy.
No, he's saying that's not the point. The point is to do something that elevates, that makes the life of many people or people around you better. So he's talking about having a moral compass and to do what it's the right thing to do, no matter what. And then I think in that example, he said something about, um, he said, look, the man that's starving to death, okay, has nothing to gain from a loaf of bread if he has sold his soul to the devil. So he's saying the loaf of bread is not important. You already sold your soul. The loaf of bread is going to feed you physically, but that's not what meaningful means. What meaningful means to him is you're under fire, but you continue on the straight and narrow path because you believe in your heart and in your soul that that is the right thing to do. So that's even more important than feeding yourself, even if you are starving.
Hmm.
So he's saying it's not the search for happiness, it's the search for what's right, to what you know it's right. And he says we instinctively know what's right and what's wrong. We know when we're doing something wrong.
Yeah. A lot of in the previous rule I even heard it. He talks about like really trusting your instinct and gut on certain things because like in rule 6, which was I got so into rule 7 that rule 6, which was, let me make sure I get
We
it
just did it
accurate. Set your house in perfect order before you
before you.
criticize the world. Yeah.
Right, right,
I believe it was in rule 6 where he's talking about, you know, do what is right. You know what is right, even without having to know why.
right.
And in
Correct.
rule 7, he also brought that up where he says, to have, this is a quote from the book, to have meaning is better than to have what you want because you may not know what you want or what you truly need.
It's crazy. You know what I
So it's
mean?
like something within that you are following, but you don't necessarily know exactly what you want. You just need to follow the meaning in your life. It's a little complicated, to be honest with you, on um what meaning is.
Yeah, and he goes back to biblical stories,
Yeah.
which are very, very interesting. And he's bringing out the messages. But yeah, he's talking about, correct,
Yeah.
what's meaningful. He says, look,
Hmm.
aim up, pay attention, and fix whatever it is that you can fix. So he says, aim at being better, aim at improving yourself, and aim at helping your fellow man.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's, according to him, what brings meaning to life. And you can follow that in many areas
Hmm.
because somebody might say, okay, well, I'm a plumber. How do I get so philosophical and help my fellow man? Well, you can help your fellow man by when you go out there and you're doing a cleanup to the main line out in the street, do it properly. Do it the best you can. Use the best material that you possibly can.
Yeah.
Do it
Honest work.
conscientiously. Right.
Honest work.
And then that'll last for a long time. And you're helping your fellow man because if you do a lousy job, that will break again. And then you don't know that these people have enough money to spend as much money again on a job that you did poorly.
And you're also helping the future you because by doing a good job, people are going to recommend you.
Oops. Excuse me.
People are going to trust you
Correct.
and you will grow.
Yeah, I just picked a plumber. Okay.
Right.
But
Anything.
anything, you talk about a
So
carpenter, you talk about a surgeon,
Right.
If we all of us did our thing to the best that we can,
Yeah.
it's going to create a ripple that is going to spread out.
So have you found meaning in your life?
Have I found meaning in my life?
Like, are you pursuing a meaning?
Wow. Um, so I'm a family man, and my family is the most important thing to me. So as long as I can continue to provide, I find myself, I believe, maybe my family might disagree, but it's up for question. I find myself, I believe, providing stability for my family in many ways, whether it be giving an advice, whether it be helping with something that needs to be done labor wise or whatever, or trying to help a little bit with the grandkids. So I find myself that what gives me meaning is trying to continue to live the life I'm doing by improving my family's life. And actually, anybody that comes, I say this a lot, anybody that comes within 20 feet of me, 20, 25 feet of me, 20 feet of me, I try to improve that person's life. So if somebody comes to me in close range, I am going to go out of my way to see if that person's life can be improved. Having said that, um, I, I'm very careful of people that just want to waste your time. I may be a bit cruel on that aspect because if I feel that you indiscriminately are trying to take my time, I'm pretty good and quick to cut that. So I'm looking for relationships that are meaningful and that can improve not only my family's life, but also the other person's life. It
Yeah.
has to be a two-way street where everybody benefits, because if it doesn't, then it becomes expedient and it's short-lived and it's not going to last.
Yeah.
And so, but my what I think my meaning in life is to be with my family, improve their lives, and help everybody else that I possibly can along my road,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. So and you're 65.
Yeah.
So you're continuing to sacrifice, but it's different than, let's say, the 25 or the 35-year-old version of you that was sacrificing.
Right now, I do anything. Right now, I'm doing what I want to do in my life. So, I've had some of our viewers come to me and say, "Why are you doing this? Why are you reading a book? Isn't that like a hassle? They don't call it a sacrifice, but they think, well, I like doing this.
Yeah.
I like doing this with you.
Yeah.
And if it can, if I say something, or if we, the answer is we, if we say something that can help somebody out there, that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
I don't need to seek monetary compensation for that. I, it's like Jordan Peterson says, um, there's more joy when someone says, "Hey, I heard this and I really liked it." Like the other day in my class, one of my buddies said, "Hey, you know what? I heard your law on don't let your children do something that they would not be liked. I think it was Law Fifth and Rule Fifth." And he said it piqued my interest, and I heard the entire podcast and I liked it. And he went on to give me his opinion on raising his kids, which was super cool. And I listened because he had some very good things to say,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Don't let your kids do anything that'll make you dislike them.
Correct. That's law 5. Rule 5. Jesus.
You're all messed up, man.
I'm all messed up,
I
man.
thought I was bad.
Yeah, no kidding.
There is no faith, courage, or sacrifice in doing what is expedient. Uh, we say, I say it all the time, that adversity builds character,
Yes, you
right?
do.
And sometimes, I criticize a little bit of, let's say, your approach, because I think maybe you're taking away the gift of adversity by wanting to help somebody, someone, family, etc.
Well, that's a
Um,
very good point you bring up. So, if I want to help too much, it's bad. And if I don't want to help too, if I want to help too little, that's bad. So everything in life needs
a
a
balance.
balancing act.
That's another thing that Peterson brought up. It's a balance, and actually, it's right here. It's another quote from the book, because some of these, like you said, it's pretty deep, and I actually have to revisit quite a bit some of these pieces in the book, especially towards the end of the chapter, where Peterson really gets into like his assessment, and kind of like his, let's say, if he's going to give you some sort of instruction, it would be at the towards the ending of the chapter. One of the quotes was, "Meaning signifies that you are in the right place at the right time, properly balanced between order and chaos."
Wow.
And you brought up balance. If you want to help, and but you're doing too much of a help and you're not in balance, you end up harming. Um, so I find it interesting that he's saying that there's no faith, courage, or sacrifice in doing what's expedient. And so, in order to find meaning, you have to have faith, you have to be courageous, and you have to sacrifice.
And all you have to do is look at nature to see that they have it down. We don't. Okay? And I I hope I'm not, you guys Google this and check this out, but I read one time that the eagle, okay, while I think they're called eaglets, when their babies are very much babies, the nest is very soft and gentle.
Hmm.
But I think that as the babies grow older, since they have to jump and fly out of there, the eagles, the mom eagle, starts taking away the little fluffiness and leaves the little twigs, which become like little spiky little things, and makes the nest uncomfortable so that they can have a stimulation to get out of there,
Wow.
you know? And you see it in nature all the time. You see it all the time. You see a mama bear, jumping this big thing, and the babies have to do it 3, 10, 4 times, 15 times. And finally, if they can't do it, then she'll come out on the 12th time or 15th, but she lets them struggle
It's
and
got to be hard to see.
it's yeah, she lets them. And so nature has it down.
So would you say that,
We
uh
don't.
would right, would you say
And
that love is allowing your kid to struggle?
yes, absolutely. I think too much love will hurt a kid. What do I know about anything? Nothing. Okay? This is my opinion, and
Well,
I'm guilty of
you have
giving my grandkids things that they,
you have something that many of us don't have, and that's experience.
well,
So you're coming from a place of experience, and what at least worked for you or didn't work for you, and that's where you're coming from. You're
I
not
don't
you're
know
not
if my,
claiming to know the answers
well,
to it.
you're too kind. I don't know if my experience is enough to be able to give advice
No, you're not
and
giving advice.
or whatever. And I don't know if what I'm saying is right or wrong. Okay? All I know is that it's what I think,
That's yeah.
and that's the best that I can do.
You're living a life of meaning
I think
because you're pursuing what you believe to be true.
I am, because if I go to lunch with somebody, I won't go to lunch with someone that I don't like. Period. If we don't have this chemical connection, uh, you're
Not
done with
gonna
me.
happen.
You can invite me to lunch anytime. I can't eat food with someone I don't like. So first of all, I have to like you,
Yeah.
and then we can sit down and have a cup of coffee or something. Now I usually, you know, there I'm hanging around people. That's another thing. He didn't say it now, but he said it before. What are the what are you giving out? What are the signals that you are giving out?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because the people that come to you, it's going too long. The people that come to you are the people that you are attracting,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
you have to make sure that you're attracting the right people.
Correct.
So who is the right people to attract?
Maybe people that have similar values, moral values, moral code. Um, I'll say I'm 34. So, from my perspective, when I'm going through school, getting into the workplace, growing up in a family business and then trying to, go out and doing things on my own eventually, I wasn't necessarily thinking of pursuing a life, pursuing meaning. I wasn't thinking that as
Who
I'm going through the phases of life.
who does? How
Th-
many of us do?
yeah, no, I know. That's why this is very interesting. But I knew that I was following something and I connected with some things, uh, and I continue to. In my previous career, I was connecting with people and I felt I was helping them. And I still have a lot of those connections and friendships today, people that really trusted me. And I felt
And you're not in that career anymore.
I'm not in that career
So
anymore.
you developed relationships.
Yes. But I felt a huge responsibility when somebody told me, Mike, you tell me what to do here. And we're talking about large sums of money. We're talking about, potentially I could have steered them in the wrong place, something that would just benefit me. And we pride ourselves in taking care of the person in front of us first, the client first. And we know that the universe and God and the world will reward us for doing that. Even though that means sometimes you're not going to necessarily make money today. We're not talking about being dumb in business, you have to be sharp. But, anyways, what I'm telling you is that I somehow found something that felt like meaningful to me, even though I wasn't actually like thinking I have to pursue what is meaningful. I just wanted to share that because it's interesting now reading this rule and studying this, and looking back at my 34 years, and I feel that I did do go with like what my gut told me, which is what Peterson says to do. Just trust like what that calling is, an idea, just follow it. You don't necessarily need to know why. You don't necessarily know what's good for you or not. Just follow it. So, we need to trust our instincts and our gut and nature a little bit more, maybe. At least myself.
What was the definition for expedient again?
Expedient is a convenient and practical, although possibly improper or immoral.
Wow.
A means of attaining an end, especially one that is convenient but considered improper or immoral.
See, I didn't fit that meaning with that word. Expedient for me was like get it done
Fast.
quickly no matter what. But it
Like
makes sense. He says it may not be proper or immoral. In order to get something done quickly, you may have to cut some corners, and those corners maybe shouldn't be cut. You know? Very interesting.
maybe because the word expedia is derived from a combination of exploration and speed.
Mhm.
The company Expedia. Maybe that's why, like speed,
Yeah,
expedite,
because he's saying,
expedite.
if you do it quickly and halfway well or whatever, it's going to be a short-term gain. It's more a selfish type of reach
Yes.
And I think what he's trying to say is you should have uh, more of a fleur of a moral compass in what you do.
Yeah.
And for example, if there's a young man or a young lady
Mm-hmm.
that is freshman in high school or it's in junior high or something like that, and they're saying, I don't know what I want to be in life. How do I find something meaningful in life? Okay? I think that one of the things that he's mentioned before is look at something that you are good at today. The good Lord has blessed you with something that you're good at today. You
Yeah.
may be good at numbers. You may be good at playing the piano.
Mm-hmm.
You may be very, very fast runner. You may be good at painting. So something that you're good at today may give you uh, an opportunity to look at in that direction. And maybe if you practice and you do that more, you become even better. That might give you, it may lead you in a direction where you find meaning in your life. I've seen some of these
I think
photographers.
that's cool. I think that's really cool
I
because you there's something connecting you to that.
to that
Follow it.
follow it. I've seen some of these photographers. They seem to be having the time of their lives. And they are taking pictures of a little tiny spider and blowing it up and making it look this and that.
Maybe they are, but I'm sure it takes a lot of discipline and it's very difficult all the time that they're spending on that little video that
Yeah,
takes you see it in 30 seconds, but they probably have spent who knows how long.
it
Like you
is.
were showing me those sculptures that the guy built made of Legos and other things. How
Oh
long do
my
you think he
goodness.
spent on that? And it's a 30-second video. We'll wrap it up.
Okay.
If there's anything else you want to throw in, throw it in now.
No, no, I'm done. This was a very interesting chapter. They all have been, actually.
We're now past halfway
Oh,
of the
okay.
12 rules. And thank you everybody for following along.
Thank you.
We have some followers that are reading the book with us and
That's
following
right.
along. So thank you everybody.
And you talk about when you said what a responsibility you feel about it.
There- people are holding us accountable.
Oh my God, they're reading the book.
Pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient.
Correct.
Gracias.
Thank you.